The day the company's financial fraud came to light, the world seemed to stop. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, and all eyes turned to Emily, the wife of the CEO, with her trademark poise. She took the stage for a press conference. But instead of defending me, her husband of 7 years, she chose Edward. She shielded him like a precious jewel, and without blinking, pointed every finger at me. Her words were sharp, merciless. She vowed that I would pay for what I had done. Beside her, Edward played his part flawlessly. His expression was heavy with disappointment, his tone filled with sorrow. "Ryan," he said, shaking his head as if I were a reckless child, "I've warned you so many times not to misuse company funds or falsify records. Why didn't you listen?" The office turned into a silent theater. My colleagues watched me, wide-eyed, waiting for me to fight back, to deny it, to argue. But instead, I smiled. Calm, steady. I didn't flinch. I accepted every accusation, even handed in my resignation on the spot. To them, it looked like defeat. To Emily, it looked like growth. She leaned close, her voice soft and full of false comfort. "Once this storm passes, I'll bring you back. And when the time is right, I'll even announce our relationship to the world as compensation for everything you've endured." What she didn't know was that I had been carrying the company's deepest secret from day one. The chairman had personally ordered me to install back-end monitoring software on every single computer in the office. Every email, every deal, every falsified record. All of it sat quietly in my hands, waiting. And when the time came, one extraction of that data would be enough to strip away their masks. Their lives would collapse with no room for denial. What awaited them was not only financial ruin, but also the very real possibility of prison. "Ryan, do you really think resigning will erase what you've done?" Edward's voice sliced through the air as he stormed into my office. He overturned the box of belongings I had just packed, sending pens and papers scattering across the desk. "The fraud you committed has already cost the company at least $8 million. You won't walk away from this so easily." Around us, colleagues shifted uncomfortably. Their glances darted between us, but no one dared to speak. I met his arrogance with a cold stare. "What more do you want?" Edward lifted his chin, smugness dripping from every word. "First, you'll cover the financial losses. Every penny. Second, you'll hand over every single project you've been working on and help us finish them." My chest tightened. Those projects weren't just files on paper. They were the company's lifeblood. Deals I had bled for. Nights and years poured into securing them. And now Edward wanted to rip them from my hands. Not because I had failed, but because he wanted to drain every ounce of value left in me. I turned to Emily, searching her face for some trace of the woman I thought I knew. She hesitated, then chose him. "Edward's right," she said softly, almost as if convincing herself. "The company has suffered enough. If you can make up for it and help finish the projects, maybe I'll allow you to stay." The moment she spoke, Edward's lips curved into a smug smile. My mind flashed back to 6 months ago, the day he first appeared in the company. I had noticed it then, Emily's unusual interest in him. She had never once bothered to personally interview new hires. But that day, she dismissed every other candidate and handpicked Edward herself. I had asked her why. She told me Edward reminded her of me when I was young, that she simply wanted to give him a chance. She told me not to overthink it. For years, even through our secret marriage, she bent her principles whenever Edward was involved. I had told myself she was just compensating for our hard beginnings, that she pitied him, that she was being kind. But now, staring at the way she stood beside him, I could no longer lie to myself. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips. "Edward? He's just an assistant. What qualifications does he have to take over my projects? And you expect me to help him?" Emily froze. She hadn't expected me, always so patient, to strike back. Edward's eyes flickered with irritation, though he quickly masked it with false humility. "Ryan, I was only trying to give you a chance to redeem yourself, out of respect for your years here. If you don't appreciate that, fine. But don't insult me personally." Then, like an actor in a cheap drama, he turned to Emily, voice trembling just enough. If I'm so useless, maybe I should leave. Emily panicked, grabbing his arm. Who said you're useless? As long as I'm here, no one will ever make you leave. Then her gaze hardened as it fell on me. Ryan, I'm so disappointed in you. Just because you've been here longer, you think you can bully newcomers? Edward works harder than anyone. He takes his job seriously. He may only be an assistant now, but one day, he'll be a rising star in this industry. Her words broke something in me, but not in the way she thought, because I remembered. Since Edward joined, Emily had handed him project after project to practice with, and every time he failed, he ruined partnerships, offended longtime suppliers, and almost sank us more than once. If I hadn't swallowed my pride and personally gone to beg for forgiveness, those deals would have been gone forever. And yet, she still believed in him blindly. Seeing my silence, Emily assumed she had won. She softened her tone again. Edward was only offering a kind suggestion. This way, you can silence the gossip and stay in the company while also benefiting the employees. What's wrong with that? At that, the quiet office began to stir. For the first time, my colleague spoke up. Ryan, you've been hoarding all the key projects. We only get scraps. Now's your chance to share. Another chimed in, sneering. Your reputation is already ruined. No other company will take you in. You should be grateful Emily and Edward are still offering you a way out. And honestly, a third added, you should just apologize to Edward and beg for his forgiveness. Their words cut deep. For years, I had bled for this company, pulling in partnerships no one else could, transforming this branch into the most profitable under the entire parent corporation. Every year, I delivered results that filled their pockets with bonuses and rewards. And yet here they were, rewriting the story, painting me as selfish and greedy. I scanned the faces around me, faces of colleagues I had mentored, guided, even protected. Edward's smug smile deepened, satisfaction written all over him. Ryan, if you apologize to me, maybe I'll forgive your insult. Emily's eyes softened, proud of him. See? Edward is kind and generous. Even without you, her words trailed off, but the knife had already been twisted. Emily looked at me with a hint of impatience. Ryan, you're capable enough to handle those projects and keep the company moving forward, she urged. Then, lowering her voice so only I could hear, she whispered, Stop being stubborn. Accept this opportunity. When it's all over, I'll make up to you. We'll go public with our relationship. I laughed under my breath. How many times had I heard this promise? How many times had she dangled it in front of me like some priceless reward? I was sick of it. The truth was ugly. Edward had embezzled the funds. He had falsified the accounts. And Emily had framed me to shield him. Now, they stood in front of me, playing savior, expecting gratitude. Did they really take me for a fool? I raised my hands mockingly. Since Edward is so capable, let him handle it all. I'll be waiting to hear about his great success. Emily's expression darkened immediately. Ryan, you're really pushing it. If you're so desperate to leave, then go. But don't come crawling back when you can't find work and beg me to let you in again. I smiled coldly. Don't worry, Emily. That day will never come. Because what she didn't know was this. The one destined to cry wasn't me. It was them. From day one, at the board's request, I had installed back-end monitoring software across the entire company network. Every secret, every falsified transaction, every hidden crime was recorded. When the chairman saw the data, their lives would collapse. Not only would they face financial ruin, they would face prison. That night, I quietly packed the rest of my belongings. I asked my lawyer to draft divorce papers, then checked into a hotel. Lying on the bed, I unlocked my phone, ready to distract myself with news and messages. But almost immediately, it buzzed with a new notification. Edward. He sent me a video. On the screen, he was sprawled across my sofa, a smug grin plastered across his face. The coffee table in front of him was covered in fruits and snacks. Behind him, in the kitchen, Emily was cooking. Dish after dish appeared on the dining table, steam curling into the air. For a moment, Emily's figure blurred in my mind, her face losing the clarity it once held for me. Then Edward's voice came through, dripping with mockery. Ryan, so what if you married Emily? In her heart, I'm the one who matters. I just said I was hungry, and she jumped up to cook me a special late-night meal. She even stocked up on my favorite fruits and snacks, turned on my favorite variety show. Tell me, in all your years together, has she ever treated you this well? And the worst part? He wasn't lying. In the 10 years I spent with Emily, she could barely stand the smell of cooking oil. Just being in the kitchen made her nauseous, sent her running to the bathroom until she was faint. To protect her, every time I cooked, I flung open the windows, switched on every fan, and kept her far from the kitchen. But now I realize the truth. It wasn't that she couldn't bear the smell. It was that she couldn't be bothered, because she never loved me enough to try. I felt the ache in my chest, but it faded quickly. None of it mattered anymore. I downloaded Edward's video, saved his voice message, and recorded the screen for evidence. Then I opened a job recruitment app. Before I could even polish my resume, a notification popped up, a message from Panda Group, the undisputed leader in the industry. They wanted to meet me the next day. I paused, considering. Over the years, I had only interacted with them a handful of times, but their influence was unmatched, even compared to our parent company. After a moment's thought, I agreed. The following afternoon, I arrived at a quiet tea house for the meeting. To my surprise, they didn't waste time with pleasantries. The contract was already prepared. When they learned I had no permanent place to stay, they even offer housing, completely free of charge. Every clause in that agreement had been carefully crafted to suit me. I must have looked stunned because the representative smiled and explained, Mr. Ryan, our group has long admired your achievements. The moment we heard you resigned, our executives instructed us to fast-track your hiring. Don't worry. The rumors outside won't tarnish your future here. Their sincerity was undeniable. Work, housing, security, everything was laid before me. I had no reason to refuse. I signed, confirmed my start date, and politely declined their invitation for dinner. I was about to leave when fate played one of its cruel tricks. Stepping out of the private room, I came face to face with Emily and Edward. For a second, none of us spoke. Emily froze, confusion flickering in her eyes. Ryan, what are you doing here? In 10 years of marriage, she had never once seen me drink tea, let alone visit a tea house. Edward, quick on his feet, narrowed his eyes. So that's it. You followed us, didn't you? Heard we had a client meeting today, and came here to snoop? A sarcastic smile tugged at my lips. It was pure coincidence I had run into them here, but there was something I did need to say to Emily. I stepped closer, my voice steady. I need to talk to you. At those words, Emily's expression softened like melting snow. Satisfaction flickered in her eyes, though she tried to hide it. So, you've cooled off after a night alone, she said sweetly. You've realized you were wrong. Fine. Apologize to Edward first. Emily, I cut her off sharply. Let's get a divorce. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Emily's head jerked up, disbelief flashing across her face. Edward's eyes lit up for the briefest moment, but he quickly masked it with a show of shock. Ryan, Emily stammered. Are you serious? This is because of the press conference yesterday, isn't it? You're just saying this out of spite. Everything I did was for the company's reputation. I met her eyes, cold and unflinching. You know very well whether it was for the company or for him. Edward clutched his chest, pretending to look wounded, but the mask was already slipping. I knew it. You've always looked down on me, because I'm just a junior assistant. I must have been nothing but a burden to you. Fine, I'll leave. Edward's voice cracked as he lowered his head, playing the victim with practiced ease. Emily immediately grabbed his arm, turning sharply toward me. Ryan, when did you become so petty? Edward is just a newcomer. If the scandal spreads, his future will be ruined before it even begins. But you, she softened her tone, as if reasoning with a child, you already have experience, ability, and a reputation. This is nothing for you. I've already promised to make it up to you. What more do you want? I almost laughed out loud. When it came to Edward, a single misstep could supposedly destroy his future. But when it came to me, my entire career and dignity were nothing more than a small issue. Yesterday, they both swore no company would ever hire me again once I walked out. Yet here she was, contradicting herself, bending over backwards to protect him. Their hypocrisy spoke louder than any words. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I calmly pulled out the divorce papers and placed them in front of Emily. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I want a divorce. This time, words weren't just words. They came with action. Emily's confident mask faltered. For the first time, she realized I wasn't bluffing. Her eyes widened. "Ryan, are you serious?" I gave a steady nod. Then, without warning, she snatched the papers and tore them clean in half. Her jaw tightened, determination flashing in her eyes. "Don't even think about it. I won't divorce you." But just as quickly, her expression shifted into something smug. "Ryan, is this really because I didn't come home last night? Is that why you're throwing a tantrum?" I remained silent, my gaze cold. In the past, if she so much as smiled at Edward, jealousy would eat me alive. Yesterday, she not only threw me to the wolves, at a press conference, but also spent the night out without explanation. Anyone in my place would have been resentful. Thinking she'd figured it out, Emily seized a chance to explain. "My phone ran out of battery, and I forgot to tell you. Edward wasn't feeling well. His stomach was acting up, and he had no one else to look after him. So I stayed." Edward, sensing her defense slipping, quickly joined in. His eyes flashed with triumph as he added, "Yeah, Ryan, Emily was only being kind. She stayed with me to take care of me. Don't misunderstand." A bitter laugh escaped me. When I had been hospitalized for stomach bleeding after 3 straight days of drinking for work, Emily hadn't even visited once. But now, for Edward's so-called stomachache, she had devoted herself to him overnight. This wasn't about kindness. It was about where her heart truly lay. Her refusal to divorce me had nothing to do with love. For 10 years, I had given her everything. My time, my loyalty, my devotion. She had grown addicted to my sacrifice, to the convenience of having me bend at her will. She simply couldn't accept losing that control. Before I could respond, the door to the private room creaked open. Out stepped the chairman of the parent company, followed closely by the client we were supposed to be meeting. Emily stiffened. She quickly forced a professional smile. "Chairman, when did you arrive? If you had told me, I would have arranged a proper reception." Edward jumped in eagerly. "It's almost lunchtime, Chairman. Allow us to host you." The chairman's face was unreadable, his voice sharp. "Given the serious situation with this branch, I have no appetite for lunch." The air froze instantly. Emily's palms grew slick with cold sweat. She had orchestrated this entire meeting to push me out quietly. Never did she imagine it would draw the chairman's direct attention. Sensing danger, Edward's eyes flickered. Then he spoke quickly. "Chairman, you may not be aware, but all of this was Ryan's doing. He was the one who committed financial fraud." Emily gave me a fleeting, apologetic look before backing him without hesitation. "Chairman, it's my fault. I failed to supervise Ryan properly. He was the one misappropriating company funds and falsifying records. But rest assured, I've already fired him." The chairman turned to me, his gaze piercing. "Ryan, is what they say true?" Emily's heart skipped. She instinctively glanced my way, expecting me to panic. Instead, I smiled. "They're not wrong. I'm no longer an employee of this company." Emily blinked in shock. She hadn't expected me to admit it so openly. But before she could recover, I pulled a small USB drive from my pocket. "But Chairman," I continued calmly, "the one who actually misappropriated funds and falsified the accounts was me. It was Edward." The moment his name left my lips, Edward erupted. "Why, you're lying." I ignored him and handed the USB to the chairman's secretary. Within seconds, the projector displayed clear recordings, Edward's computer screen, the transfers of company funds into his private account, and the deliberate edits to the financial records. The room fell deathly silent. Emily's face drained of color. For once, even she was left speechless. The The chairman's voice was icy. Edward, do you have anything to say for yourself? Cornered, Edward collapsed into crocodile tears. Chairman, you have to believe me. I've been loyal to this company from the start. This is Ryan's trick. He's framing me. He must have fabricated this video, knowing you'd be here today. Emily rushed to support him. Yes, Chairman. Our company has always respected employee privacy. We've never even heard of monitoring systems. Why would Ryan suddenly have this kind of footage? Edward has always been hardworking, a true talent. Something about this isn't right. Her lies rolled off her tongue as smoothly as water. 10 years together, and still her. Loyalty was never mine, it was his. Before I could speak, the client, who had been silent until now, let out a sharp, derisive laugh. Talent? This useless man? Emily, I think you've lost your touch. Maybe it's time you retire early. Emily's face went dark, but with the chairman present, she forced herself to smile. Edward has been by my side for more than half a year. Emily forced a smile, still clinging to her script. I know Edward's ability and character. Mr. Lee, you must have heard some rumors and misunderstood him. As she spoke, her eyes darted toward me. Everyone knew I had close ties with several major clients. In her mind, I was the only one capable of ruining Edward's reputation. But Mr. Lee didn't even glance her way. He turned directly to the chairman. Chairman, since Ryan is no longer part of your company, I'm afraid our cooperation ends here. The words dropped like a bomb. Before the chairman could respond, Emily panicked. Mr. Lee, what do you mean? Even if Ryan has left, Edward is still here. But she never finished, because what she didn't know was that Edward had already crossed Mr. Lee's family. He had offended Mr. Lee's younger brother, a supplier, months ago. Mr. Lee had long kept quiet, waiting for the right moment. Sure enough, Mr. Lee sneered, his voice like a whip. Edward, what is he worth? Does he deserve to sit across the table from me? Emily, you're not just losing your edge. You clearly don't take us seriously. The accusation of arrogance landed squarely on her shoulders. Emily's face went pale. Edward's eyes burned with fury. He turned desperately toward Mr. Lee. You and Ryan are in this together, aren't you? The chairman's gaze sharpened, falling on Edward. Emboldened, Edward raised his voice. Chairman, it must be Ryan. He's still resentful after being fired yesterday. He fabricated the surveillance footage and bribed Mr. Lee to put on this act, all to destroy Emily and me. Otherwise, how could he just happen to appear here with that video? For a moment, I almost admired his shamelessness. If he had chosen to be a scriptwriter, the business world would have lost a talent. Such low-level tricks. Yet he still dared to spin them in front of the chairman. What surprised me, though, was Emily. She actually believed him. Suspicion flickered in her eyes, sharp and accusing. Finally, she snapped, Ryan, I thought you were just jealous. Throwing a tantrum. I didn't expect you to stoop this low. To use such vile methods. Shameless. The room fell into stunned silence. Everyone stared at her as if she had grown another head. Even the chairman's face twisted with disappointment, as though the word shameful was written there. At last, he broke his silence, voice stern. Enough. The president of the company, acting like a market shrew. What kind of behavior is this? Emily flushed crimson, but she still tried to defend herself. The chairman cut her off with calm authority. When this branch was first opened, I personally instructed Ryan to install surveillance on every computer. Are you now suggesting I fabricated this evidence myself? The word struck like lightning. Emily and Edward froze. Neither had expected the truth to be so merciless. The chairman's tone hardened. And as for why Ryan is here, he's here because I asked him to confront you both face to face. Emily, you've truly disappointed me. Cold sweat trickled down Emily's forehead. Her mind spun in circles, unable to comprehend why I, an orphan with no family name, held such trust from the chairman. Why had he entrusted me with such a task? Edward, humiliated, lashed out. You two set me up together. Mr. Lee sneered. If you hadn't dirted your own hands, no one could have set you up. Instead of blaming others, you'd better prepare to face the law. Edward's fury collapsed into panic as he noticed the secretary pulling out his phone. Sirens wailed outside, his face drained of all color. You just wait. But before he could finish, he bolted, running for his life. The chairman didn't even blink. With a slight nod, his secretary dispatched men to chase him down. Emily stood frozen, her world shattering piece by piece. She had known the truth would destroy them both, but she never expected Edward to abandon her so cruelly. Mr. Lee, watching her shaken figure, struck again. He laid out Edward's misdeeds over the past 6 months, every dirty detail, even the incident where Edward had harmed his brother. All the evidence was undeniable. Finally, he leaned forward and sneered. "Emily, do you still dare call that man a talent?" Emily's lips trembled. Her complexion was ghostly pale, but her mouth still refused to yield. "No, impossible. Edward isn't like that." The chairman sighed heavily, then turned to me. "I should never have listened to you back then. Ryan, I should never have given her the CEO's position." His words struck like thunder. Emily staggered back, eyes wide. "Chairman, what do you mean by that?" The chairman said nothing. Instead, his secretary spoke. "Ryan's mother once saved the chairman's life. He has never forgotten that debt of gratitude. Later, when you and Ryan both applied to this company, the chairman intended to make Ryan president of this branch, but Ryan refused. Not only that, he gave all the credit for his achievements to you, letting you sit as CEO." Emily's body trembled. Her eyes locked on mine, disbelieving. Why didn't you ever tell me?" Back then, she had been crushed by the bullying of the former CEO, barely holding herself together. To help her recover, I had made a private promise to the chairman. As long as she was allowed the title of CEO, I would remain behind the scenes, carrying the weight of the branch until it became the most profitable of all. But like our marriage, that arrangement had ended after 7 years. I exhaled softly. It's all in the past. There's no need to bring it up again. The secretary, sensing the weight of the moment, fell silent. The chairman's expression darkened as his gaze fell on Emily. His voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the silence of the room. "A good company, ruined in your hands. Not only did you tolerate employees forming factions and slandering colleagues, but you even had the audacity to fire a man who once saved this company. Tell me, Emily, what gives you the right? From this moment on, you should be the one fired." With that, he didn't hesitate. He instructed the secretary to release an official announcement on the company's website and across all internal groups, clearing my name and dismissing Emily from her position as CEO. His orders didn't stop there. HR was told to terminate both Emily and Edward's contracts, demand compensation for damages, and prepare legal proceedings against them. Emily froze in disbelief. She had always been untouchable, a woman who thrived on control and manipulation. But this time, reality hit her harder than she could bear. She stumbled forward, eyes wide, and fell to her knees before the chairman. "Chairman, please, I beg you, give me another chance. I swear I'll never make the same mistake again. I'll work twice as hard. I'll devote everything to this company. Please don't take this away from me." But the chairman's face was like stone. He didn't even glance at her. His decision was final. Desperate, Emily turned to me instead. She rushed over, grabbing at my sleeve with trembling hands, her voice breaking with panic. "Ryan, please speak to the chairman for me. If you help me keep this job, I'll do whatever you want. I'll go public with our relationship immediately. I swear. I'll cut ties with Edward. Just please save me this once." I pulled my hand away, my expression cold. "Emily, you seem to have forgotten. The only thing I want from you now is a divorce. I want nothing more than to be free of you." Her face twisted with disbelief. "Impossible. You love me too much to leave me. Before, when I treated Edward so well, you tolerated it. Now I promise to never see him again, and you still want to abandon me? How could you?" Her words almost made me laugh. She really believed she had done me some sort of favor by entertaining Edward behind my back. To her, betrayal wasn't betrayal, it was generosity. "Mr. Lee, who had been standing silently at the side, finally interjected with a dry chuckle. "Miss Moo! Oh no, I should say ex-Miss Moo. You seem to have forgotten something. Edward will soon be facing prison time. Even if you want to see him again, you won't be able to." Emily's lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but the chairman had lost his patience. With a wave of his hand, he ordered security to drag her out. Her screams echoed down the hallway, each one weaker than the last, until silence finally settled over the room. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace. Before leaving, the chairman turned back to me. "Ryan, you've proven your ability and loyalty countless times. Why don't you take over as CEO? You're the one person I can truly trust to rebuild this company." I shook my head. "Chairman, I appreciate the offer, but this company, it has already lost my trust. I can't go back. Besides, I've already accepted a position elsewhere." The chairman's eyes flickered with regret, but he nodded. He knew someone like me wouldn't stay unemployed for long. That was precisely why he had come today, to defend me. But fate had already shifted, and I had moved on. His anger shifted back toward Emily and Edward. Realizing how much talent had been wasted because of them, his frustration boiled over. With a final wave, he announced the closure of the entire branch office. In the days that followed, I focused on settling into my new home and my new company. To avoid Emily's harassment, I blocked her on every platform imaginable. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Still, rumors spread quickly. I occasionally heard whispers about what happened after the branch was dissolved. Many employees were left shocked and unemployed, only learning later that Emily and Edward were the culprits behind everything. The outrage was overwhelming. Employees who had once admired Emily now flooded her phone with angry calls and texts. Strangers cursed her name on social media. Under the crushing pressure, Emily's mental state crumbled. One day, I even heard she nearly got run over by a car while crossing the street in a daze. The parent company eventually took legal action against her, though she escaped prison time. Since she wasn't directly involved in the core financial crimes, she was forced to sell off all her assets to cover damages. Her reputation was destroyed. No respectable company would hire her. She went from boardrooms to begging for odd jobs, surviving on scraps of dignity. Edward, meanwhile, disappeared entirely. No one knew where he went. Some said he fled abroad. Others claimed he was hiding under a new identity. Either way, he slipped away like a coward, leaving Emily to face everything alone. Luckily, Emily had once forced me into signing a prenuptial agreement during our marriage. At the time, I resented it. Now, I silently thanked her for it. Because of that contract, none of her financial ruin touched me. Determined to sever all ties, I asked my lawyer to file for divorce. I thought this would finally be the end, but fate wasn't done testing me. One morning, as I arrived at my new office, I froze in shock. Emily was standing outside the building. She no longer looked like the proud, ambitious CEO I once knew. Her posture was bent, her frame frail, her hair unkempt. She looked like she had aged 10 years overnight. The moment she spotted me, she ran forward, tears welling in her eyes. "Ryan, please help me just this once. I know you have influence with the chairman. If you could, ask him to lift the industry blacklist. I'll do anything you want. Anything." That was when I realized the chairman had blacklisted both Emily and Edward from the industry, leaving them no chance to rebuild their careers. I sighed and shook my head. "Emily, we're adults. We have to live with the consequences of our choices. I helped you rise to the top, but you never appreciated it. You betrayed me. Now you want me to save you? No, I can't and I won't." I turned to leave, but Emily wouldn't stop. "If you don't help me today, I won't leave. I'll stand here until you give in." Then, in a shocking twist, she collapsed to the ground, wailing loudly. "Oh, God, what sin have I committed? To marry such a cruel, heartless man. He cast me aside for another woman, kicked me out of the company, and now won't even come home." The Emily I once knew, always elegant, composed, calculating, was gone. In her place was a desperate, broken woman throwing a tantrum like a child. Her cries drew a crowd. Commuters stopped to stare. Some of my new colleagues whispered among themselves, their eyes darting between us. I clenched my jaw. This couldn't continue. To avoid further humiliation, I grabbed her arm firmly and dragged her away from the crowd. By the time we reached a quiet cafe, Emily had composed herself. She sat across from me, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, her eyes full of a desperate gleam. "Ryan," she said softly, "you saw it for yourself. I have nothing left. Without you, I can't survive." Emily's words cut through the air, sharp and desperate. "As long as you get the chairman to lift my blacklist, I'll treat you well from now on. Otherwise," she leaned in, her tone dripping with threat, "I'll camp outside your office every day and make sure everyone knows your dirty little secrets." The irony was almost laughable. She had been the one who walked away, chasing Edward, abandoning our home, throwing me aside. And now, shamelessly, she stood there, accusing me. Even when she had ignored my feelings for him again and again, I had never felt this distant from her. Until now, she caught the shift in my silence, and a bitter smirk curved across her lips. "You probably look down on me for how I acted, don't you?" I said nothing. She pressed on, her voice hardening. "But do you even know what my life looks like now? To pay the compensation, I sold everything. I thought I could rebuild, thought I could earn it all back. But the chairman, he cut me off completely. No one dares to help me. He wouldn't even let me apply for the lowest of jobs. Do you know what that feels like? Ryan, right now, I'd sweep the streets just to survive." Her misery spilled out, raw and unfiltered. But inside me, nothing. Not sympathy, not anger, just emptiness. Maybe that was the truth. I didn't love her anymore. Still, for the sake of keeping her from interfering with my future, I considered giving her one last chance. And the moment she sensed that hesitation, her eyes lit up. "I knew you'd come through for me. Don't worry. Once I get back on my feet, I'll treat you right. We'll even have a grand wedding. Invite everyone. Start fresh." I stared at her in disbelief. Her words grew more absurd with every second. "Emily," I said, frowning, "we're already separated." She waved it off as if it were nothing. "Separation isn't divorce." 10 years, Ryan. We've been together 10 years. There's still a chance. She hadn't signed the papers. She was clinging to me like a shadow. I pulled the divorce petition from my bag, along with the videos and messages Edward had sent me. I laid them in front of her. "Emily, this is the proof of your betrayal. With the chairman and others willing to testify, there's no fixing this. Divorce is only a matter of time. Accept it." I turned to leave, but she lunged forward, clutching my arm. "Ryan, there's nothing between me and Edward. I only got close to him because he reminded me of you, the way you used to be." I couldn't help myself. I almost laughed. "So, if I saw a woman who reminded me of you from back then, would I be allowed to get close to her?" "Of course not," she snapped instantly. I looked her in the eye, my voice low and steady. "Exactly. You can't accept it, but you've been forcing me to. Emily, let's at least leave each other with some dignity. This is the end." Her lips parted to argue, but then she froze. Her eyes widened. In the next breath, she shoved me back. A flash of silver. The knife sank into her abdomen. My heart lurched. I turned, and there he was, Edward, staggering from the stench of alcohol, his eyes red and wild with rage. "This is your fault, Ryan," he bellowed, his voice cracked with madness. "You did this to me. You ruined me. I'll kill you. You should die." He ripped the knife free, lunging at me again. But by then, neighbors had already rushed in. They tackled him to the ground, some checking on Emily, others calling the police and an ambulance. Edward was dragged away in cuffs. Emily, barely conscious, was taken to the hospital. And me? I went to see her, because after everything, she had been stabbed because of me. When I walked into the sterile room, she was sitting by the window, pale and weak, staring at the leaves outside as if searching for pieces of herself she had lost. She turned when she heard me, and when her eyes found mine, the faintest smile touched her lips. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, I saw the Emily I once knew, young, naive, before ambition and betrayal changed her. But the illusion passed quickly. She patted the edge of the bed. "Sit down." I shook my head. "I've already covered your medical bills. I've also spoken to the chairman. Once you're discharged, you'll be able to live a normal life again." But she barely seemed to care. Her gaze locked on mine, trembling with a fragile hope. "Ryan, I lost my way. But after everything, I realize now I've always loved you. Even if you don't help me, I still want to start over." I cut her off, sliding the divorce papers onto her lap. My tone was calm, final. "Emily, we can't go back. Out of respect for the 10 years we shared, let's not drag this into court. End it now, before it becomes even more painful." Her hands shook as she stared at the papers. And then, slowly, painfully, she signed. Tears spilled down her face, one by one. And I knew, in that moment, that the bond between us was finally severed. The chapter of Emily and me was over. And for the first time in years, I felt the weight lift. It was time to begin a new life.